Something coming faster than any of us can imagine and will change our lives in the most dramatic ways is AI.
And while AI used to sound freaky to me and just something that was going to take over my world, it really would have revolutionized my practice had I stuck around. Many of you know, I got so burnt out from charting. It was the big reason I left medicine because I was frustrated with the EMRs, the clunkiness, and the amount of time it took to learn them. Not only that, but not being able to sit and connect with the patient and look them in the eye, like one-on-one while you're actually interacting with them. The whole reason we went into medicine, not to do paperwork.
Yeah, so that's why May and I have started working with Lindy.ai, which is fascinating. They help you produce the most efficient notes, fully customizable, which is different than some other AI products. So you can do what you do best, which is see patients and let the artificial intelligence scribe do the dirty work for you.
Yeah, not only do you get the perfect patient notes the way you want, written in any format for whatever specialty you're in, and maybe you're in ophthalmology or vet medicine. It will also create the note, scribe and send the patient follow-up instructions, referral letters, consultation notes. It's amazing. Lindy is offering our listeners a 7-day trial to experience the difference of their AI medical scribe. Go sign up at lindy.ai/BS free to get started. That is Lindy, LINDY.ai/BS free.
Finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
Welcome back to Doctales with Cocktails. I'm Dr. Tim Hindmarsh, and here's my lovely wife, Dr. May Hindmarsh. We are the hosts of BS Free MD as well, where we do amazing interviews and talk about all sorts of cool stuff in the medical world. And on nights like this, which would be a Wednesday evening, we have a couple drinks and we try to find funny medical stories and mock the living hell out of them. Because yes, as in the book of Corinthians, I have the spiritual gift of mockery.
Yes, you do. And I have the spiritual gift of keeping you in line and reeling you back in when you get off the rails and out of control. And that's why
someone's
I'm here.
Failing at that.
That's what I am here. All right. Well, usually during the show, we like to throw you a couple of funny news stories. Sometimes they're not so funny. Sometimes they're updates. Sometimes they're ridiculousness. If you've ever watched the MTV show, ridiculousness. And other times, it's just him on a rant. Depends what kind of mood he's in. But he's trying to be unoffendable. Yes. And oh so kind and changing his attitude. And if you want to follow us more, check out our newsletter. I'm doing a plug for it now. It's called Truth Serum. It comes out weekly. You can sign up on our website because Tim shared recently about his newfound freedom in ignoring people that disagree with them.
Yes, or actually engaging them in a way that is welcoming instead of, when you sat there and you said, we talk about a lot of things and it depends on what it was. I was like, just like Joe Biden's underwear. Depends. All right.
So tonight, what have we got going? I have a little bit of news coming from Oregon, since a lot of our listeners are from there. A little bit of medical changes happening that will impact your life, people, in a minor way, but still. As well as I'm listening to a lot. I'm finding my vibe in a lot of psychology lately. I'm a big Mel Robbins fan.
Not Marty Robbins. Was Marty Robbins her dad or her father-in-law?
Get out of town. It's not even related, I don't think.
You don't know who Marty Robbins is?
I was listening to some wonderful podcasts of hers. I'm ignoring you. She's had some great guests. But anyway, one of the podcasts I was listening to, I would love to get this guy on our show, Dr. Adam Adler, who's writes on psychology and how the mind thinks. I'm going to share some tidbits. And Tim has got some, looks like gross videos to show us.
Some disgusting videos that I just cannot help but share. A couple other stories about how when you're not well grounded in science or morality and you get what we call object fixation, it's amazing the idiotic ideas that governments can come up with. Yes.
Well,
idiotic.
Do we need a reminder of that?
Well, yes, because these are even more idiotic than most people would even begin to comprehend, because common sense again has been nailed to the cross, and it is. And
all right.
Guess what, kids? There's no common sense Easter coming anytime soon.
Well, so we do this show to have you, the live viewer, interact with us. So whether you're coming to us from X, Instagram, Facebook, or Rumble. Or the Tube, please.
Or the YouTube, yes, or the YouTube.
We're streaming to all the platforms. Please drop us your comments, questions, and thoughts as we do the show. We would love to hear from you. And this is your chance to get famous on the show with us.
Really unbelievably famous.
Oh, man. It's so good to be back in the Florida after having been gone. Let's just talk a little bit about where we were last week.
We were in Tejas.
We didn't post a ton about Texas on our BS Free MD page. I think none. I don't think any. Because our children, rightfully so, like to keep their private lives separate from this BS story. And so I did share some pics on my personal page, but our daughter graduated from UT in Austin. So proud. You have to do I'm doing the chakra.
Hook 'em.
You should hook 'em.
We learned all about that.
Hook 'em. So, as we now joke in the family, I am the only one in our family now without a bachelor's degree.
Right. You just have that MD degree that you've decided not to use anymore, but that's besides the point. You're using it on the show.
Yes, well,
D. Bauer 65 coming to us from the Rumbles. I love it.
All about the famous.
All about the Rumbles.
I like how he's got a new name on the Rumble. So, Texas was great. We had a wonderful time. We did the barbecue. So good. Mexican food there is authentic. And I didn't know half of the stuff we were getting. Had to have our daughter translate.
Mexican food, so good, it should be illegal.
Yeah, so good you
just
enjoyed
like
it the next day, right?
Preparing it.
So good you enjoyed it the next day.
Yes.
And the sauces, I'm like, I don't know, just give me the mild sauce.
Did you get my joke? Did you even hear my joke? Mexican food so good it should be illegal, just like the people that prepare it.
That's not a joke. That's being an ass.
Yes.
That's
right, because there's no illegal humans.
So
there's no illegal people.
Austin's cleaned itself up.
Yes, thank you,
much
Austin.
better. We stayed downtown.
Mm-hmm.
We avoided 6th Street. But it has cleaned itself up a lot. The UT throws the best graduation party. That stadium is massive. So apparently it holds over 100,000. It's got these high bleachers. Insane. And on the floor where all the graduates, the night ceremony, they combined all the grads from the spring, over 10,000. It was a party on the floor, and the guest speaker, amazing.
First female fighter pilot.
Yeah. Do you remember her name?
No, but I like the story when she said, I was an unbelievably skilled pilot. I flew all these combat missions, but I couldn't park the plane.
Well, she's not Asian.
Oh, man, we're just we try to be good and we fail.
And anyway, parallel
good
parking.
Thing that airplane was not a manual transmission.
Is a man thing.
Good thing, right? Although our daughter has only driven manual. I made her learn, and now that's all she wants is manual transmission. So it's like she's basically one car away from never driving a manual again because they don't exist.
Well, her name was Doctor. Her name is, I think it's Brigadier General Jeannie Levitt. And in 93, she became the first female fighter pilot. Great. She made an amazing,
great story.
Amazing inspirational speech, great story. And anyway, it was great. The fireworks display were awesome because most of those kids that were there, if they went straight to college at a high school, did not have a high school graduation party. So they did a cool drone show, lights. It was awesome.
It was incredibly
touched my
impressive.
Heart,
General Lovett was really amazing. As our son says, he has met her, and he said she terrifies me. So
Anyway.
I think that's a high compliment.
So that was the fun we had, and went on a few nature hikes. Got to see the sights.
Okay.
Saw turtles, but no snakes. What else can I say?
So I'm gonna before we get into stories, I'm gonna do a little bit sort of pretend ad. This is a Yeti. This is my Austin Yeti cup. I just realized that I was able to add the martini shaker lid to it, which is amazing. And then you can shake it up. How many times are martinis supposed to be?
21.
Why? Why not 22?
Because the ice will be too watered down with 22 shakes.
It will, exactly.
It will disrupt. It'll dismember. It'll dissolve, break down the ice.
But look at this.
Too much.
So
it's an exact science, that martini.
This, shaker. Honestly, somebody should have got a Nobel Prize for. You can put the martini shaker lid on, pour your cocktail into it, right? Which is like I'm doing right here.
So are you drinking Tito's tonight?
No, I am drinking Monkey in Paradise.
And it's from where?
St. Petersburg, just up the road here.
For real?
Yes.
Oh, it's so big, I can't even lift this thing.
I know. I almost bought a fifth, but then for $5 more, I get more than double. And I was like, sign me up.
Well, by the time you get home from your trip that you're leaving on tomorrow, maybe there'll be none left.
Well, maybe there'll be none left, and that's fine. But then look at this.
Yeah,
you can take this part off. You can take the shaker off, and then you can put the lid on for coffee in the morning, or I've just had a bad day. I'm drinking the entire cocktail right now from the sippy cup.
Monkey in Paradise from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Literally.
Wow.
Where I go kite surfing just up the road.
And, since you wanted to do the Three Monkeys, I think maybe you should just conspire with them.
No, I love it. It's very good.
I'm drinking an Italian. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Oh, man, that's good.
It's Italian red. Very yummy. I'll tell you in a second.
Would that be Ferrari red or something else?
It is. No, it's like a Tuscan kind of red. And anyway, we'll get to that later.
So let's vote. Gross video or story about idiots?
Okay, well, you got to give them 15 seconds at least because that's how long.
Gross video or story about idiots?
And
we have two stories about idiots and one gross video.
Well, I know what I'd vote for. Desiree says the Mexican food in Texas is chef's kiss. Well, she lives in Texas, so she would know. So, while I don't know, I think the gross video should come later so that my food can digest before I see it.
It is so good.
So save it.
I watched it and I'm like, it's so good.
What else do you got for us?
Okay, so I have a story here, which is I got to get my glasses on so I can actually read the story, because sometimes the best part is how they write these stories, which is really, really ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into this. This one is the...
Yes. Give me idiots.
Okay, so here we go.
Is basically the
Add
vote.
to the stage. There we go. San Francisco giving taxpayer-funded vodka to the homeless. Whereas that's from the Daily Mail in the UK. As the New York Post, which I'm reading, says, San Francisco slammed for $5 million a year program to give free alcohol to the homeless. And the quote is, "This isn't working." Can you imagine how that wouldn't work?
Program provides beer and vodka shots to homeless alcoholics. Wow.
That Rome, San Francisco caught flack this week when a tech CEO questioned the logic of feeding the addictions of the city's street dwellers. Adam Nathan, founder and CEO of the small business AI marketing tool Blaze, and the chair of the Salvation Army San Francisco Metro Advisory Board, posted a thread on X slamming the program after watching a string of unhoused drunks line up for their shots, stating it just doesn't feel right. Do you know San Francisco spends $2 million a year on managed alcohol program? It provides free alcohol to people struggling with chronic alcoholism who are mostly homeless. No, they're probably entirely homeless, or it was just me visiting San Francisco, realizing that if I smelled like a bum, someone would give me free booze. The estimate was wrong. It's actually $5 million a year. Okay, this is one of the best parts. The program is described by the Chronicle as nurses dispense controlled doses of vodka and beer to street people at specific times of the day, intended to keep the homeless. This is a very critical part of this discussion. Intended to keep the homeless off the streets and out of jail or the emergency room. It's run out of a former hotel in the city's Tenderloin district. Nurses. Now, is it nurses or is it just bartendresses dressed in naughty nurse costumes? That's what I want to know.
It probably doesn't matter.
It started with 10 beds and now has grown to 20. And if you, with this kind of advertising, it's going to go a whole lot more. Inside the lobby, they had a keg set up with taps where they were basically giving out free beer to the homeless who'd identified with alcohol use disorder. It's set up so people in the program just walk in and grab a beer and then another one all day long.
And there's what? Only 20 people in it?
Well, for $5 million, there better be more than 20 million people.
How much are they drinking? If there's 20 of them.
No, I think it's 20 stations or something. 20. The program started with 10 beds. Well, it has 20 beds. That doesn't mean it has 20 beers.
So if you're passed out.
Okay. So then get this. Okay. So this is under one of these things, and this is where we're going to get into object fixation, which is called harm reduction approach or safe supply. Okay. So it's this concept, which may not be entirely insane. I don't know. I'm new, Tim. I don't try to just entirely criticize things I don't know about, but it's a safe supply idea that some areas like Canada's British Columbia, as soon as you hear that, you know insanity is coming quickly. Used to provide not free beer, not free vodka, but free opioids to users so they don't overdose on fentanyl.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, not just clean needles, free opioids. But the results of those efforts have been mixed and sparked a huge debate. Really? I'm no doctor or expert, says Nathan, but I'm a taxpayer. And when this managed alcohol problem got approved, where was the public hearings? Why was it hidden away in a hotel? Salvation Army has numerous recovery programs that focus on abstinence, blah, blah, blah. So here's part of the problem. Part of the problem is when you focus on solving a certain problem, and not focusing on the bigger picture, you end up solving a problem. You do, and making 10 other problems that are 10 times worse. So yes, if you want to keep drunks out of the ER, give them just enough alcohol to solve their craving and keep them happy, and they won't get, DTs, alcohol withdrawal, and they won't go to the ER. Problem solved. The problem is now you've absolutely changed them or chained them to homeless drunkenness. So it's unbelievably cruel in my estimation.
Wow.
Unbelievably cruel.
Well, let's see. What say you, audience? I'm curious to see. So
it looks like Oregon. I don't.
So that's the thought. Yes, Oregon will be doing it next, right along with Washington. Going up that West Coast, just that whole side that probably God's gonna shake off in the next earthquake into the sea. All be washed away, and they'll be wishing they had a Noah's Ark. Well, here's another change coming to Oregon, coming sooner than you know. Coming June of 2024. Oregon physician assistants get a name change. So this month, the governor, Tina Kotek, signed a bill into law that officially changed the title of physician assistants to physician associates. The switch is the first of its kind in the U.S. So leading the way, as always, for Oregon, yay you. So this is how.
Why does that matter? Because they're not the assistant. They're it's exactly what it is.
So there's been a diverse range of opinions. 40% of PAs favored the name change at the time. The rest kind of thought that they were good with it or thinking maybe it's going to be confusing. So the reason for the name change is because that they want to reflect the work that PAs do. And it's not just assisting physicians, but working independently with patients.
Right. But
And
here's
so
the
some-
problem.
No, you don't get to just
Okay,
wait.
finish up,
Some
and then I'm
also
gonna
felt
lose my ever loving.
that the word assistant implies dependence. However, despite associates' more accurate reflection of the job, PAs mostly remain split on whether they want the new name. So many will say that the name change is going to be confusing for the public and their patients, while others say nobody really knew what a physician assistant was and was already not well understood. So, people used to think of physician assistants as more like of a doctor's helper, like a medical assistant. So, anyway,
If you don't know, if you have been,
some patients mentioned they think that a physician assistant is an associate, a business associate of physicians. It's going to be even more confusing. So the law takes effect on the 6th of June. Of course, until then, if they use any name before then, there will be penalties and fines and disciplinary action.
wasn't the 6th of June in the song Convoy by the Dark of the Moon on the 6th of June when the Kenworth hauling hogs and a cab over Pete with a reefer on and a Jimmy. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Telling you, man.
So now,
C.W. McCall. Gotta love that shit.
physician associate, because they aren't helpers, they are independent. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that every time you adjust something one way, you unadjust something the other way. So we are no longer physicians. We're providers.
Well, yeah, we're not allowed to be
clinicians.
We're called
So,
providers.
and this makes probably May more salty than me. So we sacrificed our freaking entire young adulthood to go to medical school. But then you just ask your healthcare provider, ask your whatever. So you demean us and what we've accomplished to not hurt the feelings of somebody with a fraction of my training. And I love PAs. I've worked with PAs forever. And I ask them questions because some of them know stuff in areas that I don't know, because that's part of being a good clinician. But the fact is, we have different training. And it's completely crazy. You take one thing offline, you're changing that dynamic. And so we oh no, don't offend them. We're all clinicians.
I like this.
It's like no. It's like no. To become.
Why can't they identify as an associate?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because you can identify as whatever you want to be, and it will be true. But are they independent? Will the law? No, they are not independent.
They're getting independent in more states, which is again maybe perfectly fine. I'm not debating that, and I'm not demeaning the profession, because I work with some unbelievably amazing PAs. It's just this idea that you carve the language away and think it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. No, it matters, because when you raise them up to clinician, you're bringing me down, and that might sound arrogant as hell, and I don't give a shit. It's the truth.
Yeah, and I think most physicians would agree with us.
But most doctors won't say anything because they work with these people, and lots of the physicians make lots of money off of their PAs. So, like, I get it. I get how the system works. I'm amazed. But
can you imagine the screaming if you tried to bring medical assistants up to the level of an RN? How much screaming there would be from the nurses union, because they are not the same.
No, they would lose their marbles. They lose their marbles when it's a license, like an LPN. Mm-hmm. An LPN's still a nurse. It still ends in nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not an RN. Well, you know why? Because they're not an RN.
Right. Yeah. So, and of course, are they independent? Well,
some are, some aren't. Depends on the state.
Yeah. And that's
open. It's a gigantic debate. Virtually every state in the country, nurse practitioners are independent now.
Yes.
And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, because it really kind of makes that degree more valuable when you don't have to have somebody
supervising you.
And so I it is what it is. I get it.
And the level of supervision of PAs varies so much. I got a discussion online with somebody, and they think, and maybe so, that their PA who's working as a primary care provider works directly in conjunction with a supervising a medical doctor and runs everything by them. That's not very common in primary care practices. Most of the time, they just have to be a phone call away. 10% of their charts need to be reviewed. And after that, it's a crapshoot what you get. So,
well, and that's the thing. Like, honestly, if you work for a really good system, they tend to be very particular on how they hire and how they train people. And that's really the critical element.
Exactly.
What we've noticed it's a group with nurse practitioners and PAs, mid-level providers. If they get really good training in their first several years out of school, and it goes for physicians as well, when you enter as an attending, they do exceptionally well. And good organizations understand that and train people appropriately.
Now, the goofiest explanation, I got into this discussion with somebody again, is training. Well, the only difference between PAs and physicians is that PAs get trained on the job and physicians just pay money and go to medical school to get trained.
No, that's
during
entirely
residency. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
No,
it's not
to
even
be a
the same.
physician assistant, you have to have an undergraduate degree, so a 4-year degree. You have to have worked in healthcare in some manner, so paramedic.
Well, that's just it for medical
nurse,
to get into medical school.
right?
Now you have to usually
understand
have
that. And then it's 2 years of training, not 4. No residency, no internship. Okay, so that is a drastic difference in training.
There's pretty much not internships anymore. They just go straight into residency.
Well, whatever. But what are you doing without? Okay, so
they have 2 years, and physicians have a minimum
of 7.
And most of the time we have is not book training; it is
on the job training.
No,
it's an apprenticeship.
Yes, exactly.
It's an apprenticeship.
Anyway, there you go.
All right.
Now
that we've pissed off every single PA in the United States, no one will talk to me.
Not really, but I just think people need to know the difference and be wary of buyer beware. There you go.
Right. Okay. Let's get gross because I can. So I want to start a new segment here where we pull things off of the interwebs or the Instagrams that we really like that's medically related. And I found one that is so unbelievably satisfying to watch. I had to share it with May. So here goes.
Oh, do I have to?
I am going to
Do I have
click
to watch
this box, and then I'm going to click this box.
Respiratory tract infection, hence the thick mucus, and this video is going to show how to do a nasal sinus irrigation. Really important to remember that you don't want to do this in a child that's under 6 months of age because they don't yet have that natural mouth breathing and cough reflex that you need when you block off the nose. It's really important to remember that you never want to use just plain tap water unless it's been boiled and allowed to cool. Otherwise, you're going to want to use distilled or sterile water. And out of the proprietary salt, you can also make your own solution at home using about a teaspoon of salt, non-iodized, a teaspoon of baking soda, and 500 mLs of the water. Also important to remember is have the child bring their head tilted forward over the basin. Nostrils are connected. When you spray the water into the upper nostril, it's going to drain through the downward facing nostril.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that I love waterboarding. I'm just like the satisfaction of understanding how wonderful they must breathe when that mucus comes piling out of there, like a cocking gun gone insane. Like literally, it's like they're waterboarding these kids.
People, I remember talking to parents about kids and their snot, and people don't realize, you blow your nose. Well, these kiddos don't have the skill to do that. And there's a lot of crap up there, as you all saw.
That's right.
Coming out. A lot of mucus produced in those little heads. So yeah, you can imagine the choking, not only by the child with the mucus, but the parent watching that.
They cannot blow their nose, but Billy knows he wants to be Sally. I had to just bring that in there. I had to just twist.
Yeah, that was pretty gross. All right.
That was awesome.
That just didn't leave me feeling very
honestly,
yummy.
I almost started gagging.
That was
unbelievable.
There's some pretty gross stuff on Instagram where they show crazy surgeries, people with freakish things, subcutaneous worms wiggling around in people's bodies. No, nasty. Okay.
Do you have another story, or am I going to get to idiot number 2?
Oh, get yours over with. I can leave on a positive note.
All right, here we go. Idiot number 2, which is, well, who would have ever thought this was going to happen?
The paper straw thing. Yeah, it's like.
So not so eco-friendly. Paper straws contain more forever chemicals than plastic.
Sounds
Studies
like electric cars and their batteries.
Exactly. So the Journal of Food Additives and Contaminants. There's a journal called the Journal of Food Additives and Contaminants.
Apparently there is.
Wow. I bet you the editor of that one gets laid a lot.
So
anyways,
the forever chemical that we all know as PFAS.
Or polyfluoroalkyl substances in the majority of paper and bamboo straws. Tests in Belgium listed 39 brands of straws made of paper, bamboo, plastic, and stainless steel found in shops, supermarkets, restaurants. And basically what it comes down to is really simple.
As well?
If you want to make paper into a straw that you can drink through, you have to add an absolute metric ton of chemicals to it, or actually make it kind of a fake plastic straw so that it actually functions as a straw and not just a piece of wet paper.
Otherwise, it would be toilet paper in your mouth.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, who would have ever saw that coming? I don't know. Maybe the geniuses in San Francisco that are giving free liquor to homeless alcoholics.
Well,
I digress.
So Canada has outlawed plastic straws. Although it's so funny because I was just up there and you get your paper straw in your, guess what? Plastic cup.
No, yeah. No, but again,
how
it's
can you
target.
Not laugh at that bullshit.
It's object fixation. We need less plastic in the ocean. Is that a good idea? Yes, that's a fantastic idea. So then we'll just have paper straws that we have to make chemically 1,000,000 times worse than plastic straws.
Sounds so reputable.
The problem solved. We just made a problem 5 times worse than the original problem because it's object fixation. So what is this object fixation and where does it come from? It comes from aviation, which is, as well as other sports, but in aviation, it's very popular because it's kind of the whole idea. If you're landing an airplane and you're focusing on the runway, you tend to not land well. You tend to smash into the runway because you are 100% focused on it. The best story I ever heard was a drop zone owner who was a friend of mine had a student, and there was one tree in about 40 acres of landing area. You could go anywhere. You actually had to use a significant amount of skill to hit that tree, to aim for it and hit it at the correct altitude. And that person was so focused on that tree.
No way.
Bam. Like the middle of nowhere, just tree smash. How do you do that? Because you're focused on one goal and not on the ultimate goal, which is landing and walking away. And so it just breeds idiocy. It never ceases to amaze me. And
well, as my father, a bush pilot that flew planes, said, yes, don't look through the water or you will fly through it. If you're
onto the bottom of the lake.
Exactly. All right. I've been listening to my buddy Mel. You know, we're connected. At least she doesn't know it, but we are. And Mel Robbins' podcast has got some great stuff on it. There's this episode. There's so many great ones. I was like, where do I start? But one with Dr. Adam Alter, I should say. I think he's a doctor. He has written some books on how the environment influences our psychology. And one of his books is called Anatomy of a Breakthrough, How to Get Unstuck When It Matters Most. He is actually a professor of marketing at New York's University Stern School of Business. And he's a best-selling author. His other book is called, let me think, Drunk Tank Pink. And that's where some of this information comes from that I'm going to talk to you about. So I was listening to him on Mel's podcast, and he was talking about how our environment influences our psychology positively and negatively. And thought this would be kind of fun to share some of this stuff with you. Blew me away. He did. I have to talk about Drunk Tank Pink, and that was the title of his book and research they did back in the 80s with regards to using the color pink, Pepto-Bismol pink, bubblegum pink, and they painted the insides of these drunk tank jail cell holding tanks for inebriated people, thinking that the color would maybe calm them down and make them less combative and annoying, and it actually kind of worked a little bit, to the point that it's gone on now even today where there's some athletic teams that have painted their opposing the visiting team, their opposing not teammates, their opposing, what do you call it? The opposition. I don't know what the name I'm looking for is. They painted their locker rooms in this bubblegum pink to try to calm them down so they're not as revved up during the game. And supposedly it works. So there's boxers that also wear pink boxing shorts to try to psychologically suppress the adrenaline and the motivation of their opponent. Supposedly it works pretty good because it induces a state of calm.
Do you know what Don Cherry would do when he was the coach of the Boston Bruins and they were playing the Montreal Canadiens that were the best team in the world then? He would get the janitor to turn the temperature up in the Canadiens dressing room to like 90. so they could never, so they'd come off the ice all hot.
That'll work. Well, so this is all about color. There wasn't anything, they didn't talk about heat, but he talked a lot about color as well as mirrors. So I have some other fun tidbits to share with you. So the impact, on our brain and color, and even if you're colorblind, so it can influence things as well. So a lot of times color is by association of things and moods. So even if you're colorblind, thinking like the sun being yellow, you associate with warmth and vibrancy. So if you're seeing, and you're colorblind and you're seeing the reds and greens a little bit muted, you still will associate, green trees with calm and nature, and it'll give you a calming sensation. Blue and green tend to be calming, whereas the red and yellow colors are activating. So they did this thing and study about the color red. And we know that a lot of animals that have red tend to be dominating animals in nature. And they have used it in sports teams. And they did this study where they randomly took two different teams. I think it was, I know they did it in wrestlers. And they would just randomly assign them to wear a red, not a jersey,
singlet.
They call it a singlet, or a blue. Well, apparently, red wins 2/3 of the time when they're competing. Kind of blew my mind away. And yeah, this was like
so
red.
When they wore the pink singlets, was that only when they wrestled in Jello?
Then then if you're wearing pink, then the person you're wrestling against gets subdued. I don't know. They didn't do pink. So yeah, apparently 2/3 of the time, people wearing sports teams wearing red in that study won. And that's why I guess a lot of teams like red. Whereas, and if you're like wearing red and you're on a dating app, putting yourself out there, even if you have like your picture and it's bordered with red, you have red out there, it apparently is more stimulating. It seems to attract more people and more attention wearing the color red, which makes me wonder about my friends, especially actually my mom, who loved the color red. It's her favorite color, and she did attract a lot of attention. Anyway, fascinating stuff. Blue, green, it's our the association with calm. So, if you need a calming environment, painting your colors blue, green, calm you down. Totally cool. So get this. The other thing he talks about is mirrors. I'm going to put a mirror in the alcohol closet. Get this. People who actually started doing this in stores, and it reduced the shoplifting numbers, because when people are shopping and they're walking by and they see themselves in the mirror, if they have a tendency to want to steal something and then they look in the mirror and look themselves in the eye or see themselves caught in that act, they will reverse it and become more morally inclined to not do something negative. They did a study where they actually, it was like a random dice game, heads and tails, and people had to, told to tell what they flipped, and people would lie about it. I forget how they set it up, but if they actually had a mirror in front of them, they would lie less. And so apparently stores place mirrors all over the place strategically, helps reduce the risk of shoplifting, and it can change your behavior as well at home. So that if you want to stop snacking on the snacks in the pantry, you can put a mirror in there, apparently, so that if you go in and you see yourself, you kind of like look yourself in the eye, catch yourself, and fact check. So,
or maybe you look at yourself and go, clearly there's no hope.
Clearly,
I might as well be
I need
Cheeto fat and happy.
that. Clearly, I need that chocolate bar, that Lindt chocolate bar.
Lindt.
Anyway, pretty cool, right? I don't know. I thought it was interesting. He goes on talking about clutter and how clutter is distracting, but the color thing I thought totally fascinating, especially in sports psychology.
Well, let's paint the house whatever color we need to get shit done. Everything's red. My neighbors had an completely red room.
We had a red bathroom growing up.
Red carpet, like the reddest of the red carpet.
It was red and black. My mom loved red. It was a flaming hot red shower tile, red floor. I guess I got out of there in a hell of a hurry in the morning. Motivating, to say the least. And speaking of motivating, coming up on our podcast this week, we have an interview with Dr. Corey Fawcett.
Unbelievable guy.
He is literally, as we speak, biking across the USA.
He's in Florida. He started in San Diego, and he has made it to Florida on a bicycle. And a bicycle with no battery.
And
That's
I know that he got sick right at the beginning. They all got norovirus and wiped the heck out of their energy for the first few days. They were in a hotel room.
Those cycling shorts mixed with norovirus.
Can you imagine being in a hotel with like one bathroom and 3 or 4 people? So he has made his way across the country, but he comes onto our podcast, and we recorded that obviously before he left, to talk about some of the books he's written. A lot of them are on financial freedom and getting your finances straight and just setting yourself up for a life free of stress and worry. And he, I think, lives life pretty thrifty, but to the fullest.
Yeah, no,
he travels a lot. He vacations all the time. He has a motorhome he enjoys. And he's got a lot of great wisdom that is applicable to anyone, not just medical professionals. So, his ability to have found balance in life from pretty much the very beginning of medical school is quite evident when you listen to this interview. And you talk about work-life balance or financial freedom or whatever. It really is quite amazing to actually talk to somebody that did that and what it takes and how much he enjoys life. And he's like, I basically do whatever I want because of the way I've planned everything. I don't worry about money, but he doesn't spend like he's not, as Joe Rogan says, when he goes to Vegas with his last name's not Hindmarsh.
Yeah. When he goes to Vegas,
doesn't have 3 cars in a storage garage.
Exactly.
Waiting to come to Florida
with Dana, and he'll blow through like $700,000 in an evening of playing cards.
Yeah. Well, how much money does he have in his bank account?
More than us. And on a happy note.
Oh, yes.
There's a picture of me
in Target. Now, either your head is really tiny or that.
No, my head is not really tiny. My head is really gigantic. It's massive. My body's not huge. I'm short. I have an extra large helmet size. And we were in Target in Austin. And I was like, they make bras this big. And I'm like, I cannot imagine walking around with 2 of my heads attached to my chest. So yes, if you're listening, go back and watch this on Rumble, and you will be blown away by the size, the sheer volume of women's undergarments.
It's really not fair because men's balls do not get to disproportionate sizes. Women, however, get to suffer.
Have you seen all of the balls in the world?
I've never seen balls that big, Tim. Now, a lot of men theoretically have big balls that they need to carry around in a wheelbarrow because they are very brave.
I saw that. I found that. Yes, there literally is There is wheelchair. There is wheel.
Episode.
The South Park episode, but there's an actual guy. I'll find it. We'll have it on a DocTales. There's a guy literally with the wheelbarrow balls.
Yeah,
literally.
And they're not selling a bunch of wheelbarrows for guys like that. Like they are at Target for women.
No, I mean this guy clearly has like a whatever, not a cystocele, cystocele or whatever it is, he's got fluid. It's got a lot of fluids. And I'm like, easy to treat. Somehow he didn't treat it. And he literally looks like Stan Marsh from South Park. It is, I got to find it. That is just, it's so unbelievable.
There's like a photo of the guy.
He's walking around and you go, he's just fat. And it's like, no, it's his balls.
Wow. Poor guy.
Well, you could get it fixed.
He could. I'm just hoping we don't have to see the photo of him naked. It's not naked.
No. No, we don't do that.
Okay, good. Anyway, like I said, it's not fair. It's disproportionate. Unfairness. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to win this argument. I just I can't admit, wow. What is my head in boob size? I know it's an extra large helmet or a, 7 3/4 or whatever in hat size.
I know what it is in childbirth size.
Yeah. What is it in boob size?
I know what it is in childbirth size.
Do I have a triple D head? Do I have an H head, a G head?
I think it's double Z.
Double Z head.
It's called the ZZ top.
It's the ZZ top. There you go, kids. She nailed it. We're done. Cannot get anything better than
Nick listened to the Seek Smith episode. He really liked it. I'm glad
that is a great episode.
If you haven't heard it,
yes,
go back and check out the Mom Army and Dad Army podcast. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. And I'm still reading comments and laughing. Go back and read. Chad has got some good stuff on here. Until next week, where Tim will be coming to us from another vacation destination.
Yes.
While I manage the home front.
Correct.
We will see you all next time.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time. So we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
While we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible, we can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.